Welcome back to the Collective Regional Summit presented by Community Trust Bank. The final session of the day features one of AppHarvest's top senior leaders, Matt Gosnell. He's the Vice President of Development for AppHarvest. We look forward to learning from Matt the story of how AppHarvest came to be, how this company is establishing Kentucky as America's leading AgTech hub, and more about the recent announcement to construct its second high-tech growing facility in Madison County. The company already has a facility in Moorhead and offices in Lexington. So, Matt, welcome. We're excited you're with us, and we look forward to hearing your comments.
And really appreciate all the work that Commerce Lex does. Had a great day last month with Jenna and Cheryl and Ashton, and you've got a great team there. And Angela and Andy have been really helpful getting us set up here for the event today. So thanks to your team for doing all they do. So guys, my name is Matt. I'm really excited to talk to you today. I'm going to run through a few slides, just a high level. I find that some people know a lot about us and some people know absolutely nothing. So I'm going to try to thread the needle a little bit here, share some slides, and then hopefully save some space for some Q&A at the end here. So let's just take a quick look, a little bit of background about us. Hopefully everybody can see here. It's just finishing loading. Okay, should be good to go here. I'm going to come back to the summary slide here, giving a recap of what we're about to talk about. But so we are a 3-year-old company now, believe it or not, and started raising money in early 2018. We have raised and deployed in excess of $150 million to date in Rowan County and in Madison County and in Fayette County here with our Lexington offices. So we just feel like we're just getting started here. As Bob mentioned, we have our first facility online in Moorhead and a couple more in the queue. And then my role traditionally is finding sites for future facilities. So I'm back on the road and thinking about groundbreakings for next year. So our plan is to be under construction for 10 years at least. So my role is to be out on the road quite a bit, thinking about what's next for the company. This is actually a photo inside our greenhouse here. So these are our young tomato plants. We're expecting our first harvest around the first of the year. So look for those AppHarvest tomatoes in Kroger or wherever you shop first of next year. Love this photo here, a little dawn shot of our farm in Moorhead, Kentucky. This is where we had our our ribbon cutting, I should say. I guess it was about 6 weeks ago now. So that's what the little setup there out in front is. But you're looking here in the center there where it says AppHarvest at the pack house, which is the central hub between two 30-acre greenhouses on either side. So 2.8 million square feet almost altogether. So if you start at one corner of the building, walk all the way around, it's over 2 miles. So you better believe these guys are getting their steps in here in the greenhouse. You can see a couple other things here. Over here to the side, you can't quite make it out, but this is a 10-acre retention pond, which actually collects rainwater that we use for our plants. So the roof system here, you see it's kind of a concave system here. It actually funnels all water to a gravity flow down to this 10-acre pond, and then it's recirculated back after it's shocked with UV and filtered with sand to make sure all the impurities are out. And we are a net zero water facility, which we're really proud of. So a 10-acre retention pond, we've got 300 jobs coming into this facility. We're about half capacity right now, bringing the second half of the facility online early next year. And this is a $115 million investment. This is a beast of a facility here. As I mentioned, we have a couple more on the way. We've already broken ground in lovely Madison County, where we're expecting to build a replica of our Moorhead facility in terms of size and in terms of jobs. It'll be a slightly different layout, different alignment, but same footprint, almost 2.8 million square feet, another 300 jobs is what we're looking at, and tomatoes just the same as Moorhead. We also broke ground similarly in Berea, so in the 2 projects in Madison County. Really excited about the facility in Berea that'll be focused on leafy greens, which is a new business for us, but one we feel like has a lot of potential. So this will be a smaller facility. You see there, 15 acres of growing space against 60. So we can find our economics without quite such a big facility. Economies of scale is how we find our economics here. That's why we build so big. But the margins are better than you'd think on produce. So, why did we get into this business? Well, I think we're situated in a lot of ways to take advantage of some things that are already happening in the world right now. And I think the last 6, 8, 10 months here have shown us all that, food systems are delicate. And so we need to think about maintaining those food supply, through difficult situations and into the future. So, we're looking at data telling us that we're going to essentially need 2 planet Earths to feed the population. And just 200 years ago, the planet had 1 billion people. We're now up to over 7 and heading towards 10 by mid-century. So we're hearing that we essentially are going to need the growth space of 2 planet Earths in order to feed everyone on the planet. So we need to do more with less. Obviously, we've only got this one planet. And obviously COVID has driven home the need to think about, our food supply, securing food systems, as well as thinking about those supply chains, especially the international ones. So, things that we're going after, things that we're growing, you'll notice, are not traditional row crops. In fact, we're never going to compete with local farmers. Very critical for our farmer friends to know that we're never going to be growing wheat, soybeans, corn, tobacco. Never going to be our business. We're interested in taking market share south of the border, where we've seen a lot of increase, especially with tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, leafy greens. This is going to be our core business going forward. So just some statistics here about the increase in these types of vegetables in the last several years. I'm sure many of you have friends and family who are eating more vegetarian dishes or maybe even vegan. We're seeing massive increases in demand for produce. At the same time, we have more mouths to feed. At the same time, we have less resources to grow these fresh fruits and veggies. So it's all kind of coming together for us to be in a sweet spot to push out from Kentucky and make this the controlled environment agriculture hub of the United States. So how do we do that? Well, we work with the best in the world at bringing proven technology. We're not doing anything that is not proven. We've partnered a lot with companies in the Netherlands. These guys are the best in the world at this type of growing. You'll see other farms like this elsewhere in Europe. The Israelis are very good at this as well, especially with their desalination water usage. But it's the Dutch that have really made this, the business model that we like to emulate here in Kentucky, and that includes something that we call the tripod method, where they are really active with the public sector, with our private businesses, and with education, pushing together for common goals. And so we're trying to replicate that here and ape that model. And so we've had multiple trips to and from Holland. The greenhouse you saw on a previous slide is a facility from Holland. Actually, it's a turnkey greenhouse from a Dutch provider. And so, this is a huge industry in Holland. This is a country that would fit entirely into the eastern half of Kentucky and is the number 2 agriculture exporter in the world. They do that because of their efficiencies. And if you go to Holland, if you fly over the southern half of the country, you'll see greenhouses as far as the eye can see. It's a really fascinating thing to witness. But critical for us to think about is this number here at the bottom. 10,000 AgTech companies support the greenhouse industry in the Netherlands. So our pitch to our friends in Frankfurt is to say, hey, listen, we've got this ability to attract a lot of attention here to Kentucky. If we could get 6 or 10 of these companies here, this is hundreds of jobs. This is a game changer for Kentucky. So we talk about this as a potential $10 billion industry just in the state. And to that end, we've worked with a lot of partners here that you've seen highlighted, including our universities and some Dutch companies as well. So a little bit about the technology. Like I mentioned, nothing piloted. It's all proven. So we control things like the temperature, but it's not just the air temperature. It's the nutrient solution temperature. It's the root temperature. It's the leaf temperature. So that minute of detail is solved for. We also solve for things like humidity, CO2, the nutrient concentrate, the acidity, the pH. We have a really cool pest program. We introduce good pests to kill bad pests. So there's an integrated pest management system, they call it. Really cool bug nerds hang out in our greenhouse and are working with this all day. We have beekeepers on staff. We use natural pollinators. And then, of course, we control the light, which is another thing that's not just the light, but it's the intensity of the light, the spectrum, the duration, the interval. All these things play into what makes this a really special facility. And that's where that high capital expenditure comes from, is the secret sauce inside the building that allows us to grow year round. So we never take a break. We're harvesting something every day. We will use those lights I mentioned about half of the year. So we use that as a supplement. And that's a critical thing to understand when you think about what probably gets more press and maybe what you've heard about before, these vertical farms on the coasts, maybe in San Francisco or Brooklyn. You've read about these guys where they buy up an old warehouse, retrofit it, stack trays of vegetables to the ceiling. But of course, they're running lights and using city water in areas of the country where utilities are very expensive. So these are things that we're very happy to avoid, as well as, less our more sustainable type growing, less our environmental impact. We're still able to maximize our efficiencies and grow better than the vertical guys, frankly. But different way to grow. We're kind of cousins, but not exactly the same business. Just a little more about that. We use 90% less water than open field agriculture. That is a stunning number to me. As I mentioned, a 10-acre retention pond in our Moorhead facility allows that. It might not be quite that big for future facilities, depending on the size, but the idea is we want to have about a 3-month water supply. So if, God forbid, we don't have rain for 3 months in Kentucky, we have the ability to pull from that. We are going to be connected to city water as well, just in case, but the plants don't like the salinated water as much. So using rainwater, the natural stuff, is what the plants respond best to. LEDs, I'm sure some of you are familiar with these, basically allows us to grow a plant bigger, faster, while using less electricity. So we have interspersed high pressure sodium lights, which are high heat lights, which in this case of tomatoes, they really like those, as well as LEDs, which are energy saving and do help the growth process quite a bit. What I was mentioning earlier about how we, the variables we control, the temperature, humidity, CO2, et cetera, all comes from a really incredible climate control system, 300 plus sensors around the facility. You can control it from your phone or from your iPad. So really cool high-tech stuff. These buildings are awesome. It's something for everybody to sink their teeth into. That's why it's such a cool place to work, because, are you a plant science guy? Are you systems engineering? Are you into, building and constructing things? There's just a lot of ways to apply yourself with what we're doing here. So it's been really cool to learn about all this stuff and have people a lot smarter than me teach me these things. Just a little snapshot of some things I'm already mentioning here. The same thing that I'm sure a lot of you have heard in terms of the logistical importance of Kentucky, why it is that we all love to live here so much and want to attract businesses here. We can get to 70-75% of the country in a day's drive. So we're decreasing that diesel usage. I mentioned a lot of those, the plants that we're going to grow come from south of the border. So we're going to save that diesel. And what ends up happening is you're paying for a whole lot of gasoline and a little bit of fruit by the time you buy it at the grocery store. Less water usage. One critical thing I want to mention, the higher yields, 30 times the yield per acre this way growing versus open field agriculture, 30 times the yield, pretty incredible number. So we've got a lot of cool things going on in this facility, but the company is really proud to be a benefit corporation and a certified B Corp. For those of you not familiar, this is a relatively new tax status that allows us a little more freedom with our bottom line, something we're really proud of as we go into communities and talk about how much what we do is entirely reliant on our community partnerships. So this allows us to spend a little out-of-pocket money without piling everything back into our bottom line. So this is something that's really unique. There's only a few of these that are listed publicly. We're going to be on the NASDAQ relatively shortly. So it's really exciting to be able to represent the NASDAQ as a benefit corporation. And as you see here, only 8 in the whole state. And this is a very difficult distinction to get. Quite a lot of hoops you have to jump through. So got some hardworking people on our team that spend a lot of hours making sure this is a reality. And now it's an ongoing process of keeping our sustainability metrics such that we can still fit into this B Corp status. There are 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. We're tackling at least 6 of these. So this is also something we're really proud of here. So something about, I mentioned about how many more mouths we're going to have to feed. Well, CDC says only 1 in 10 Americans gets enough fruits and vegetables, 1 in 10. So we get that to 2 in 10, we're doubling the market, right? So, we see an increase in demand. We think that number is going to go up from 1 in 10. And it's, often a lot of younger folks that are driving increased demand here. But we're tackling a lot of other issues in terms of clean water, climate, responsible development, innovation. So we're excited to be contributing to these goals that the UN has identified as important for future development. We're really excited to be partnering with communities in Kentucky. This is our MO. We're all, well, not all, I would say the first 6-8 of us anyway are all Appalachians or have roots in Appalachia. My dad's family's from Hart County originally. We have some Harlan folks. We have some Pikeville folks. We got Breathitt County. I know we got more. We got a Martin County guy. Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of coverage from Appalachia, and I'm talking on the corporate side, not just in the greenhouses themselves. But this is in our blood here. We want to give back to the region that's given a lot to us, and so we know about how strong, how hard working the folks are in the region, and so we've been singing the praises of Appalachian workers since day one, and we're really excited to be building exclusively in ARC Appalachian counties. So we know about our location. We know about why big companies like to locate here. We're happy to be able to get to 70-75% of the country within a day. This is our value proposition. Let's get you the fresh fruit, healthier, same day or next day delivery instead of 7, 8, 9 days on a truck ripening from Mexico. This is not our idea of a tasty vegetable, and I'm sure you guys have all bitten into a mealy tomato before and been disgusted, so we're trying to solve for that. I've mentioned the company itself, really cool place to work. We take our culture very seriously in terms of what we offer our employees, amenities, service programs, some great uniforms, which unfortunately I don't have a photo of right here. We've got some good moisture wicking material in the greenhouse because they do get pretty hot in there, as well as some incentive programs to make sure we're retaining those folks. So a couple members of the team here, and let's see, we're getting towards the end here. Hang with me just another minute. This is a really cool program that I wanted to mention. Part of our benefit corporation status, as I mentioned, allows us to take a little money and pour back into communities outside of what might be generating revenue for us. We've spent money pre-revenue on 2 of these shipping container greenhouses. This is essentially a small version of what our large-scale greenhouse is. So we put the first one down at Shelby Valley High School in Pike County. We just installed one in Rowan County. We've awarded one to Breathitt, and I think we have 3 or 4 others in the pipeline. But the idea here is this works as a before and after school program for kids. Again, we make no money on it. This is all for the school cafeteria, for the kids to take their fruits and veggies back home to their families. So it teaches them on a smaller scale how to work in one of our facilities on a large scale. So if these kids can understand the mechanics of growing in one of these facilities, they can absolutely transition into working in one of our larger ones. So this gets kids thinking, hey, maybe there's a way for me to stay close to my friends and family that I love so much in this community that I love. And maybe I don't have to go to a big city to find a good job that's going to provide for my family. So this is really exciting to us to get the younger generation excited and think about the next generation of farming. A little bit more about our partners. We have combined and have MOUs with all these folks here, including ways to help us grow our workforce. Second chance employment, very important to us as well. So with Fletcher Group, Addiction Recovery Care, and Goodwill, we are excited to be able to be a second chance employer. We also have partnered with our universities in Central and Eastern Kentucky. It's very important as I talk about that tripod method of, if we're going to grow this, if this is going to be as big as we think it's going to be, we have to have buy-in from public, private, and universities. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from university administration. We've had multiple folks go over to Holland with us to get some sense of what this sector could be in Kentucky. And it's one of my favorite things to do. I've been over there a handful of times now, and to see the looks on their faces when they go into what they call Food Valley, see these high-tech facilities, see the research and development going on, see these really high-tech ways of growing. It really changes their perspective on what this could be. So we've been very lucky to have some great partners in central and eastern part of the state. And just a little bit about our press. We've gotten a lot of good national press. We had a nice piece in the Courier Journal last week, I think it was, but a lot of folks have been perking up and paying attention. We've raised a lot of money. We deployed it quickly. We're building quickly. we're getting to positive revenue generation quickly. So a lot of folks paying attention. We're really excited to be the new kid on the block. But as you see here, this is inside the greenhouse. We're now growing, so now we've got to be operational. We've got to be successful, like we know we're going to be. Okay, I'm going to back up to this summary slide here, and Bob, I think that's right at 20 minutes.
Matt, this is fascinating. This is incredible, right here. So I have some questions for you. I think I know the answer to this, but why did AppHarvest choose Kentucky? Was it your and then where? Was it your allegiance to that area? Was it just that's home and here's a great opportunity to expand the economy?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things, Bob. I mean, like I said, the first half dozen of us or so in the company, all native Kentuckians, actually we had all moved away from Kentucky and we all came back for this. So, it takes one guy at the top of the house, a very visionary leader, Jonathan Webb, that we work for, who dogged in his pursuit of what he knew this could be and didn't allow anyone to second guess him. So got to give a lot of credit to him sticking to his guns as he had. But aside from Jonathan, the next 5 or 6 of us are all native Kentuckians, all have roots in Appalachia. So it's a combination of love for the region, love for the people, as well as more practical considerations when you talk about the amount of rainfall we get, which allows us to have this very unique water retention system, which saves us operationally while giving us environmental benefits, as well as that logistical benefit of being able to get to 75% of the country. We're just so centrally located here. And so from a transportation standpoint, it helps us. But I cannot overemphasize enough how much of a sweet spot we're in, especially when you see these crazy droughts and crazy storms on the coasts and places that traditionally grow all our food in terms of California, Arizona, and in the middle part of the country that have depleted soil or have droughts, major water issues. So Kentucky is just in a sweet spot for a lot of reasons. But, Bob, we all are from here, so I think that was the first thing. Is we thought, hey, let's go back and do something in the state that we love. This is an excuse for all of us to get home to the place we all want to be. But practically, it's going to work here because of these things that I mentioned.
Well, I remember back a few years ago when I was in college, in my one law class that I had, ag law, my professor said the number one issue of the future was going to be water. And, it's interesting how it has been water, especially out west, and now it's nationally as well. But can you talk a little bit more about the environmental, social, and governance, and then how these issues impact the company's overall mission?
Sure. I mean, ESG investing, I'm sure people are aware, has increased massively. And this is a language that my finance team speaks better than I do, but I do know that it helps us a lot when we go into rooms in New York and San Francisco and these deep-pocketed folks that we were hunting down for project finance money to be able to talk about these things. And we're finding a whole lot of the investor community is thinking more holistically about their investments and they want a return, of course, but it needs to be in an environmentally sustainable way. To be able to check those boxes and talk about saving 90% water and to talk about the fact that we're not even running these lights 6 months of the year, I think it gives a lot of credibility to what we're doing and shows everybody that we're thinking about a lot more than just growing a plant. We're thinking very holistically about what this is going to mean for our environment and then for the next generations, of course. What are we leaving behind? So ESG is we have a whole report on ESG, Bob. I'd be happy to share with you, and I know that has helped us get into a lot of rooms, and I think it's helped us have a lot of difficult conversations in a much more smooth way when we talk about asking for the sums of money that are required to build these facilities. It certainly helps when we're able to talk about these ESG important items.
Next question I have is, what's the future of the food growing systems and supply chains, and is the trend to more locally sourced food versus global supply chains?
Well, we certainly think so. I mean, that's a big part of our value proposition is young people are driving this. We're finding people want to know where their food's coming from, and they'd like to know that it's coming from close to home, that it's helping people in their community. So more and more regionally sourced food is becoming the norm. The bottom line is the buildings we're building are so capital intensive that I'm not sure that this is the silver bullet for the entire industry. I will say we think this is the future of growing. we're excited about other people to get in the space with us. I think that when you talk about how food gets to us now, I think over a third of the food that is in the grocery store is imported, over a third. So, when you talk about how things like COVID are going to affect those supply chains, you have to take into consideration how you're going to get fresh fruits and vegetables to the people that need them. And it sure helps if you're a lot closer to home. So, we think this is the future of farming in terms of this controlled environment agriculture, we call it, very distinct from the vertical farming or from the hoop houses that are around the state. We do think this is the future because we can grow so much more with less. That 30 times yield over an acre of outdoor grown crops is a stunning figure. And I think when people understand what that means in terms of generating returns for investors, they're going to say, well, maybe it's not as big of a something to bite off as you'd initially think. That there are returns there, and you can get to profitability quickly.
Well, and one of the things that has come to my mind is we have Locust Trace High School dedicated to agriculture in Fayette County, and I know there's other schools out in central Kentucky as well that are putting more focus. You've got FFA programs, technical ag programs, now back into the elementary schools. It's exciting to see that, and wow, this would be a perfect marriage, but I'm sure you're probably already 10 steps ahead in looking at that and starting our younger folks out in that area too. So it's amazing, I think, all the ties and how this is such a great fit for us. If Central Kentucky wants to be an ag tech hub, what are the things that as a region we need to do to support businesses like yours to grow this sector and specifically this ecosystem?
Well, Bob, that would take a full hour, I think, right there. But we've got a lot of ideas about how to attract eyes to this space and ideas about how to attract investment to this space. So we've kind of looked at this as, how do we help this? How do the Washington guys potentially help us in terms of federal policy, and then what can we do more locally to make Kentucky stand out? At the national level, we're looking at how to attract more investment to the space because they are so capital intensive. So we're talking about something like a tax write-off for 30% of capital expenditure, which is aping a program that helped renewable programs get off the ground 10 years ago. We think that's a great way to incentivize this space, and we think that the benefits of this sector warrant public sector support. So that's definitely, from a federal perspective, something we're thinking about. More mundane things like crop insurance. There's a crop insurance program for row crops. There's nothing for controlled environment ag. We had a $900+ billion farm bill a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and no money allocated for controlled environment ag. So people aren't really thinking about this. And despite the fact that these facilities have existed in Europe and other parts of the world for more than a half century, it's not been widespread in the States yet. We're trying to change that. When you talk about at the state level, it gets a little more tricky because we have, of course, so many counties in Kentucky, and we're positioned to grow exclusively in Appalachia. AppHarvest is Appalachian Harvest. So we talk about things like utility access in a lot of the parts of Appalachia. Nothing more frustrating for me than finding a beautiful site that I love and can imagine a future greenhouse there, only to find out that we don't have a natural gas hookup, which we need to heat the facility, or we have electricity that's 4 miles away, and we need to put several $1 million down to run it. So utility connections, infrastructure in general in terms of road access. Another big thing is the subsurface in Appalachia. I call it a lot of mirage land where it looks great, flat, and it might be either on in a floodplain or maybe it's a former mine land. So, we want to figure out ways to better work with Frankfurt to help with site development. This is a big expenditure for us, especially as we're going to build exclusively in the mountains. So, as we're able to think more deliberately about the timing of these facilities, I think it's really important to crack that nut in terms of accessing, public sector support for readying a site. I think there's also a lot in terms of what a community can do to attract not just us, but any business in terms of some advanced engineering diligence work. So we've really appreciated it where that has happened, where we've had communities that have done advanced work and spent some dollars to show a company like us that comes in on day one, okay, we've done our diligence here. The site's going to be suitable for development. So some standardization of permitting is another thing. Maybe it's so different in each county. What works here doesn't work there, and so we're having to refamiliarize ourselves with every community we go to. So a big ask maybe, but more standardization of policies would be a big help. But I would say to be able to have utility support and site development support would help not only us, but then our ability to go to these Dutch companies and say, hey, come build here. Let's hire Kentuckians because you're going to be supporting us. We're going to have so much product that's going to go out. We're going to need to be buying widgets from you ad nauseum. So it makes sense for you guys to locate here. And here's a great site that we know about because, Economic Development Cabinet or, XYZ community has provided a repository for that. So I think there's a lot we can do. I've got a whole list of stuff beyond what's just at the top of my head here, but a great question, Bob, and something I'm thinking about every day.
Well, and we have a very effective Central Kentucky Regional Public Policy Group that we need to get you plugged into. That's where we as a region finally came together back in 2005. And not that we hadn't worked together before, but on public policy we really hadn't. And we now have a state focus, a regional focus, and a federal focus. So anyway, you would be a great, you'd fit right into that overall discussion. Any closing thoughts here as we wrap up this session?
Bob, I just really appreciate all the work you guys do. I wish that I were able to build in Fayette County here. Unfortunately, just outside of ARC, but I drive around and look at all the beautiful land around and think, oh man, that'd be a great place for a greenhouse. But we're excited that you guys have been as supportive as you have of us. We, of course, are expanding our corporate team here in downtown Lexington. So we've got a great office that I would invite anyone that's in the neighborhood, get a hold of me, and I'd love to meet you and take you around a little bit. But I'm just really excited to get the word out a little more. And Bob, feel free to put my contact in front of whoever is interested as we're seeking to expand, as we're looking at future sites for future greenhouses and bringing jobs to new communities. It's all about investment jobs for us and sustainable growing. And we're just excited as heck to be here in Kentucky doing it. And we couldn't be able to do it if it weren't for organizations like yours. So really grateful for the time here and thankful for the space.
Well, thank you. And that's what we do. We help business, we help communities grow the economy, grow new dollars. And this is clearly one of those future trends that it's no longer a trend. It's now reality, and it's going to only mushroom and grow more. So thank you for your time today, and I look forward to getting to know you and the team. And just remember, we're all here as a collective region to help you to build your business and to keep growing. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
I want to thank the attendees for listening in on this session. And wow, a lot to chew here. A lot of incredible stuff going on. And the more I think we all learn about the region and the potential that we have collectively, I think the more closely we can work together on those things. So thank you for joining in on this session.